Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I've always felt like I had pretty useless parents. They split up when I was just a kid, leaving me with my mom. My dad, on the other hand, started a new family and had 2 kids who are currently underage. Growing up, my dad's absence and neglect were painful reminders of his new priorities. My grandpa was very well off, and he always tried to make up for my parents' shortcomings. When he passed away, he left €150,000 for his 3 grandkids, €50,000 for each of us. He had a will, and his lawyer announced this to us days after he passed away. This money was supposed to be our security, our leg up in life. My dad and I agreed that my share would stay in a deposit account until I turned 25, so I could use it as a down payment for a house. This plan made sense to me and gave me some hope for the future. Last year, my dad passed away suddenly. It was a shock, but it also brought up a lot of unresolved feelings. As I turned 25 this year, I decided it was time to withdraw my money from the bank and use it for an apartment down payment. I had been dreaming of this day, planning my future around it. But guess what? The bank said they never had any deposit under my name. I was stunned, confused, and immediately knew something was terribly wrong. Since my dad was gone, the first person I went to was my stepmother. I approached her with a mix of hope and apprehension, hoping there was some simple mistake. She tried to play dumb with me, giving vague answers and dodging my questions. But I pressed on, determined to get to the bottom of this. Finally, she admitted that my dad had been using my inheritance, with her full knowledge, on my step-siblings. They're significantly younger than me, and according to her, needed more stuff, trips, clothes, extracurricular activities, and all sorts of luxuries. This made me furious. When I was a kid, my dad couldn't be bothered to pay child support. My mom, already stressed and resentful, would take it out on me. I remember having to beg both of my parents for lunch money or to get braces, while my dad was happily funding expensive trips and lavish lifestyles for my step-siblings. The injustice of it all felt like a punch in the gut. I went to a lawyer, and we decided to sue my stepmother as the official representative of my step-siblings. It was clearly stated in my grandpa's will that each grandchild should receive an equal amount of money, and it shouldn't be spent on another person unless agreed upon. My demands are straightforward. I want them to repay me the $50,000. Of course, my family considers me a B, because this means one of my step-siblings will lose their money. They think I'm no better than my dad by stealing someone's money. But here's the thing, I'm not stealing. I'm reclaiming what was rightfully mine, what was promised to me, and what was unfairly taken away without my consent. My stepmother has tried to paint me as the villain, claiming I'm heartless and greedy. But she conveniently forgets how my dad and she spent my money while I was struggling through my childhood with barely any financial support. She forgets the countless times I felt abandoned, neglected, and unimportant. This situation has torn the family apart even more. Some relatives support me, understanding that my stepmother and dad were in the wrong. Others side with her, thinking I should let it go for the sake of the family peace. But what about the peace I never had growing up? What about the security and stability that was stolen from me? I'm standing my ground, not just for the money, but for the principle of it all. My grandpa's will was clear, and his intentions were to give each of us an equal start in life. My dad and stepmother violated that trust, and now it's up to me to set things right. So am I the a-hole for demanding what was legally and rightfully mine? OP's grandfather's will was clear, and OP's father had no right to spend OP's inheritance on OP's step-siblings. It's not OP's fault that OP's father and stepmother chose to disregard your grandfather's wishes. OP deserves that money, and they should be held accountable for their actions. And now let's hear the community's opinion. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Your dad and stepmother were completely out of line. The money was meant for you, and they had no right to use it for anything else. Stand your ground and get what's rightfully yours, not the a-hole. This is so unfair. You had to struggle while your step-siblings enjoyed the benefits of your inheritance. Your family calling you names for fighting for what's yours is just plain wrong. Stay strong and don't let them guilt trip you, not the a-hole. Definitely not the a-hole. The will was explicit about the distribution of funds. Your dad and stepmother betrayed your trust and the trust of your grandfather. It's not about taking money from your siblings. It's about reclaiming what was always meant for you. Don't feel guilty for demanding justice. My fiancée, Lauren, and my mom have had a pretty good relationship over the last 5 years. When Lauren and I announced we were getting married, my mom was absolutely over the moon with excitement. The wedding is this weekend, and I am so giddy. Lauren has an invisible physical disability. It's not really obvious unless someone tells you that she has it, or if you are super observant. Someday she will walk with a slight limp. My mom has known about this disability for years and has always been accommodating when Lauren has had to rest while we were out somewhere, helping around the house, etc. Once, my mom made an off-colored joke about Lauren being a cripple, but I shut that down as soon as it happened, and she's never said anything like that since. I asked Lauren to let me know if she ever said anything like that to her when I wasn't there, and Lauren confirmed that the joke stopped after I told my mom to stop. My mom also knows about the occasional struggle Lauren has had in her field, law, because she cannot wear heels in court, as they are too painful. For one judge, she had to get a note from a doctor. After that last incident, my mom commented that maybe Lauren should have worn the heels that one time. But I explained that it was just too painful, and she wouldn't be able to do her job properly if she was in that much pain. We are making a good amount of money in our careers and are paying for our wedding ourselves, even though my parents offered. My mom can be a bit of a control freak, and we wanted to be able to make decisions about our own wedding without her hovering over us, questioning and vetoing our decisions. We figured the best way of doing this was to pay for the wedding ourselves, so that she couldn't play the "I'm paying for it" card. So far, so good. But today my mom was dropping off some table decorations, and we got to chatting about the wedding. Lauren's dress was in the hallway, along with a very nice pair of flats she had bought specifically to go with the dress. My mom pointed at the shoes and said, "She's not wearing those with the dress, is she?" I said that she was, and my mom suddenly got very angry. She started asking why Lauren couldn't wear heels for my special day. I said that I loved the shoes Lauren had picked out, and besides, I didn't want her to be in agony during our wedding. My mom began yelling, she never yells, that Lauren was clearly exaggerating her disability to get out of wearing heels to spite my mom. She called Lauren a cripple again and said that our children would be Tiny Tims. I would have kicked her out of my apartment if she didn't storm off by herself. I want to emphasize that I've never seen this kind of behavior from my mom in my life. I haven't told Lauren about it yet because I'm still a bit in shock. I do plan on telling her what happened because I plan on uninviting my mom to our wedding, and I want Lauren to know why. I guess my question here is twofold. First, should I tell Lauren everything my mom said, including the cripple part, or just give a basic summary? I don't want Lauren more anxious than she has to be before the wedding, but I don't know what would be more stressful. Second, should I further sanction my mom in some way? Given that this was a one-time thing, I feel like some family members might think I'm overreacting if I do anything more. But I definitely don't feel comfortable if this is my mom's current attitude towards Lauren and our future children. How could I broach that subject with her? Jesus, that's so weird. That's such a strange thing to latch on and be upset about, and so disrespectful to your fiancé. Good for you, standing up for her and yourself. I would have done the same, uninviting her. I think OP's mom's other comment is the most revealing. She called Lauren a cripple again and said that our children would be Tiny Tims. The wedding is making it real for mom that Lauren's going to be the mother of her grandkids, and now she's flipping her crap that the grandkids might be disabled too. Totally disgusting attitude, and one that isn't going to stop with the wedding. Anyway, I could BS you with fake names for everyone involved, but then you'd miss out on the hilarity. My sister is Eve, and I'm Lilith, Lily for short. Our parents still say they didn't mean anything when they named the two of us this way. But that's not all, folks. Eve's ex is Adam, and my ex is Seth. Would have been funnier if he was Cain, but you can't have it all, I guess. Joviality aside, the situation we found ourselves in has been an extremely crappy one. Some light on the past first. Eve and Adam were together for 5 years, while me and Seth were together barely for 2 years before it burst into flames. I was never particularly close with Eve, But hey, we're sisters, and we did help each other out when we needed it. I'll admit I was envious of her being with Adam and how their relationship was so picture perfect. Hell, everyone loved Adam, especially our folks, who talked everyone's ear off about their future son-in-law. Me, on the other hand, well, let's just say that I let myself go after university. I wasn't fat, but I was definitely on the chubbier side of things. Not a problem for one-night stands, though, which is something I heavily indulged in for a while. Let's just say my parents weren't particularly thrilled. Moving on from that, there came a time in my life when I wanted to lose some of the excess weight, and I started dieting, only to quit, only to start up again, and on and on. One day when I was visiting my parents, and Eve and Adam were there too, I was complaining about this, and Adam stepped in, offered to help me out if I wanted to. Eve was encouraging, saying he really could help. Figured I might as well give it a shot. I listened to Adam, followed his advice, started dieting again, and some very, very light visits to the gym. And always with Adam. So yeah, that turned out well. I was visibly losing the weight and getting into shape, which turned those light visits to the gym into something more, and to this day, I still regularly go to keep in shape. In said gym, I met Seth a little over 2 years ago. It was just friendly chit-chatting at first, bantering and so on. But then we started hooking up, and before you knew it, it wasn't just us hooking up, but actually being with each other, going on dates and actually being together in a way that didn't involve just sex. So yeah, a relationship. Which I thought was going great, until Adam came home one day from work and found Seth and Eve making out in their living room. So much for that, I guess. I didn't believe Adam when he called me and told me about it. I really didn't want to believe my boyfriend was cheating on me with my own sister. That my own sister could do something so horrible to me. And not just to me, but to Adam as well, who by this time I had genuinely considered to be a part of our family. My parents called me to ask if it was true, but I still hadn't really processed it, and Seth came to my place anyway to talk. I say talk, but it was more like horse crap. I have no idea who he was trying to convince that this was the only time. I mean, really. The first and only time, and he just happened to be in their apartment. Give me a break. I really don't want to know the extent of his cheating. It wouldn't help me at all. So yeah, I broke up with Seth. Adam broke up with Eve, and the two of us were being bombarded with calls and messages, and everything else in between. This one time was funny though. Eve came over to apologize for what she did and beg for forgiveness. Her words. And I used that opportunity to text Adam that the coast was clear, and he could clear out their apartment of his personal stuff. Fortunately for me, I had no such issues with Seth, given that we never moved in together. Anyway, Eve figured out I was the one to tell Adam she was at my place. Duh, I was texting right in front of her, and she quickly turned another leaf, called me a spiteful bee. See, how I was always jealous of her and Adam, how I kept lusting after him, and so on and so on. While most of the stuff she said didn't bother me, it hurt me on some level that my own flesh and blood would not only betray me like she did, but that she'd try to make me feel even lower than I felt. I don't know. I guess I stopped seeing her as my sister from then on. Kudos to our parents. They were full-on supporting me and having more than just harsh words for my sister. But ultimately, I know they won't cut her out of their lives forever, and I don't really blame them for that. Things were more or less Cold War style between me and Eve, until I told my parents that Adam and I started dating. How did it start? The gym. Outside of it, I really didn't have much contact with Adam, because what the duck would I say to him to make things seem better, and I was thinking I'd be rubbing salt in the wound, and I didn't want that. Changed my schedule around the gym to avoid Seth, and it worked, which is how I ended up working out most of the time with Adam. We were awkward around each other at first, but eventually we settled into just chatting about the crap we found ourselves in. It took 3 months before I realized I felt something for him more than just sympathy or friendliness. I didn't know what to do, so I just talked to him. It was more or less the same for him, and we weren't sure what to do about it, given our shared past. He suggested a tryout phase, just going out and dating, and putting off sex for a bit to make sure we weren't just acting out for purely physical needs. So we dated for about 2 whole weeks before I jumped him. Yeah, I know. But we'd been seeing each other almost every other day, and it wasn't enough for me to just make out when I knew I wanted more, and I could tell Adam did as well. But he held himself back for no particular good reason. Now it's a relationship. It's more than just dating, and I honestly have to say that I can't understand what my sister saw in Seth that was worth the consequences for cheating with him. This weekend, I told my parents about Adam and me and asked them to keep quiet about it to Eve. They said they will, but I know eventually it's going to come out one way or another. This isn't a big town. Someone's bound to see us together and tell her. Once it does, once the BS starts spilling over to our family and extended friends, we share some social groups overlapping, not much though. What would be the best way to take care of it before it blows up even more? Holy crap! Your sister and your now ex Seth are crappy people. Let her find out. She and Seth are the ones in the wrong here. If she gets mad, all you have to say is that you and Adam were the wronged party, and the moment she and Seth cheated, they showed nothing but blatant disrespect for you both, and they stopped having any right to be in your and Adam's business. Who you two date is now none of their concern. They made their choices, and now they can live with it. My ex and I divorced 6 years ago after he had multiple affairs and moved out with his girlfriend, who knew he was married. He left me with our 2 toddlers and stopped his paycheck, forcing me to go on government assistance and rely heavily on family not to be homeless. 6 years later, and I'm finally almost breaking even out of the financial and emotional hell I've lived through, in spite of him owing me over $30,000 in back child support and my career getting ruined. Me using up all my savings and just the overall struggle of starting over. To this day, he acts like he did nothing wrong and that his cheating was justified because he wasn't happy. He married the other woman who was very young, and 6 years later, they are still looking for ways to make me suffer because it's fun for them. I have done my best to, for lack of better terms, be a robot, remain detached and unemotional when dealing with them, to save my sanity because we share 50-50 custody, my choice. I have been polite and even friendly to try to keep a peaceful environment for our kids, but I just can't take it anymore. Their now stepmother has continually tried to manipulate them into calling her mom. She had my ex give her our children's hospital mementos from their birth that he took without my knowledge so that she could make a scrapbook for them. She has tried to insist on showing up at my parent-teacher conferences to discuss my child's behavior and discipline, which I feel is extremely inappropriate. She has recently managed to show up on the first day of school and get there before me to scoop up all of the parent paperwork, place all of her and my ex's info down as parent info, and leave me completely out of it. Not to mention, my ex using the kids as manipulation tools, continuing to lie, withhold information about the kids, not telling me about school events, report cards, injuries, and him moving 4 times since our divorce, all within 2 blocks of my house. Weird and creepy. My children are too young to know any better, and I don't want them feeling like they have to choose sides. They love their dad, and I don't think stepmom is neglecting or physically hurting them in any way either. But dealing with this is infuriating, and I feel like there's nothing I can do but just take it. I don't know what to do, or if there's anything I can do. I would head down to the county court and ask the clerk what you can do about getting child support enforced and the back pay garnished from his wages. Ask for any information about parental alienation as well, if they're willing to give it to you. Then go into the school with your custody order, paperwork, and get yourself put in as parent info. Ask for her to be taken off. Talk to the administration and let them know that your ex is withholding information, so you need another way to stay updated. Talk to their teacher and ask if it's possible that the teacher can keep an extra copy of all paperwork, info in their desk, so that you can go in and pick it up once a week because the ex and wife are withholding them from you. Make sure as many people as possible know that information is being withheld from you. Get people's emails and keep in contact with them. On top of this, be super nice to everyone at the school. Bake frequently and send your kids in with cookies for the teacher. If you have to pick them up, just happen to have some extra fruit, snacks, whatever, and give them away to admin, teachers, whoever. The aim is that if stuff hits the fan, they will all know you as the nice lady who makes an effort and be on your side. I know that this is weird. I'm struggling to understand what's really going on, but I'm at a loss. So recently my husband, 31, got a raise in his job and earned decent amount of money. He started buying expensive pajamas. I honestly don't know why, but they're so nice and lovely. I was happy that he finally was able to buy them after wanting them for a while now. I told him how excited I was to see him wearing them, even encouraged him to try some on to see how he looks. But he refused and told me those are expensive pajamas and he won't be wearing them to bed because they're too expensive. I was puzzled. I asked if he had a business trip coming up and he said no, nothing. I asked if he wasn't going to wear any of his pajamas at home and he shook his head and said no, then kept on about wanting to buy more. I was confused. I mean, I don't get it if he keeps buying expensive pajamas, then say they're too expensive to wear to bed. Why then does he keep buying them, and where does he wear them? He can't possibly wear them at work or family events. It's ridiculous. I can't believe I said that, but I'm trying to understand where he wants to wear them if not in bed. The only bed we have. He threw the "my body, my choice" at me and told me to respect his choices. Fine, but what if it was me buying lingerie and keeping them in the closet untouched, saying they're too expensive to wear in our bedroom then? I just don't get his logic. You know, I kept questioning my sanity and my memory. We only have one bedroom and one bed. If he's not wearing his expensive pajamas here, then I can't think of where he could possibly be wearing them. He accused me of wanting to start a fight only because he was spending money on fancy clothes, and I didn't like that. But that is incorrect. He started taking them with him, claiming I might try to return them to the store, or even try to ruin them out of spite after he got into an argument with me because I was forcing him to wear them to bed, but I'm not like that at all. How should I deal with this bizarre issue? This happens a lot when people who grew up poor when they become financially stable. There's a luxury item they've always wanted that becomes a symbol of success to them. But the habit of "don't ruin the expensive item you can't replace" is too hardwired to overcome. Let him have the special item. It's his. It's not hurting you and it's important to him to have. This is his adjustment process.